I got to kick this thing off. Can I kick it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ladies and gentlemen, listen.
Conversate with Us Radio presents the Man Listens Show. We are the blackest radio show on the internet. We bring you our opinion on topics that affect the black community in an effort to enlighten, enrich, and empower every brother and sister that falls under the sound of our voice. We operate on a no-hating frequency, so be prepared for us to keep it 100% real and 100% black all the time. Please follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Man Listens Show. You can subscribe to the show on YouTube. Click that bell icon, and then let you know whenever we have a new show. And make sure you let everybody know about the blackest radio show on the internet, the Man Listens Show. I'm your host, Marv B. Bring the crew in. Twitter, formerly known, was it X, formerly known as Twitter?
Right.
That threw me all off, man. But new year, we ain't gonna say what year because we don't want to date the show. But New Year, still same Man Listen. Shout out to C. Katt Williams. Katt Williams went on Shannon Sharp's Club Shay Shay, and he gave the business to a bunch of people. The people he singled out the most was Ricky Smiley, Steve Harvey, and Cedric the Entertainer. But a couple other people caught some strays too, right? And this is like, I think the last time I saw it was like 35 million views on that one episode, 2.5 hours. I think Lab said, it was above that now. Clearly, it's the most watched episode that Shannon Sharp has put out on Club Shay Shay. But this Katt's appearance on this show was so polarizing. There were some people who were just like, yeah, Katt, yeah, and there were some people who were just like, this motherfucker right here. And I don't really know why it was so polarizing. I have my thoughts, but of course I want to hear from the crew. Arika, you kind of gave a little side eye. What'd you think about Katt's appearance on Club Shay Shay?
Man, for one, I didn't realize I was committing to a whole motion picture length interview. I really feel like the highlights were already on the internet by the time I got around to the show. I think my favorite was, what do you say? You have an unnatural allegiance to losers.
And it's not like you.
I was like, oh my God. But I mean, I don't know. I get where people are like, only black comedians come for other black comedians, white comedians don't do that or whatever. But also, I feel like what he said, Shannon let those other people come on there and say what they wanted to say, and all he did was come on and say his side of things, which I think is fair. Sometimes, you always want people to take the high road, but no, sometimes it's just about setting the record straight. And if, like everybody has been saying, 2024 is the year of the truth, then it was just necessary for some of that to get aired out because I don't like talking about people's wives and whatnot, but that 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 prize of a weird face, light skinned chick, it seems real accurate.
It's really it might not be 100%, but it's very truth adjacent, right?
Yes.
Some of them wasn't that weird face, but you do get the light skinned wife for
So
sure.
When they put them all in the same picture together, I was like,
Some of them was cute, but a lot of them was kind of weird face. I ain't gonna lie.
Well, what I also thought was interesting too is that the people who responded, none of them said anything about getting a weird face wife. They all talked about stealing jokes or doing this other stuff. They never even said, hey, don't talk about my wife. You could talk about my jokes, my comedy, but leave my family out of it. And we've talked about that before, where we think that that's one of the things that we should draw the line at, is not talking about people's families. And so for the people who responded to not even take issue with that, that was surprising to me. But I mean, I thought it was remotely entertaining. I had it on more in the background while I was playing with my godson, but I mean, I laughed.
Listen, it was hilarious. It was entertaining. I would refute one point that you made. White comedians do call out other comedians for stealing jokes. I remember specifically Joe Rogan calling out a particular comedian for, if not stealing his joke, stealing somebody else's joke. Like, I think I can't remember the particular comedian. But I would say that and you said a whole lot. Uh I I I was highly entertained by it, but I'm a Katt Williams fan. I'm a Katt Williams fan. I've always said that I feel as if his impact is somewhat slighted by certain people, because certain people just, folks just don't like them. Like, you don't like how they look or whatever. And we're not gonna go here, but I feel as if that's why Monique didn't get as much push behind her when she put her statement out, because certain people didn't like her comedy. They didn't like how she looked. They don't like her lifestyle with her and her husband. And because of that, they was like, nah, I'm not fooling with her and whatever she's trying to do. And I feel as if that's part of what's happening with Katt as well. Why some people really aren't vibing with what he said. I'll go deeper into it a little bit later, but I found it funny that most of the people that he spoke out against, like you said, Erika, it stood out that they didn't defend their wives, right? But I think that's just more so like clowning the Joneses or whatever, right? But I found it funny that they really weren't that forceful in disputing what he said. Like when he said, "Hey, listen, said you don't write Steve Harvey, you tried to backdoor Bernie Mac, Ricky, just that and the other." All of them was kind of like, and they kind of try to couch it in like they were taking the high road, but you really weren't taking the high road. If you were taking the high road, you wouldn't even entertain it. You just be like, "Hey, man, I'm on the bigger and better things." See what I'm saying? Kevin Hart tried to clown, and it failed miserably. I've never thought Kevin Hart was funny, and he kind of showed it with this. Tiffany Haddish. And Tiffany Haddish tried to clown and say, "Well, Kat, you are on drugs." They tried to dismiss him by saying on drugs. He's like, "No, I smoke weed. I've never taken a hard narcotic." And Tiffany Haddish tried to say, make a little joke on social media, which I found funny because Tiffany Haddish, it's been well documented, you got a drinking problem, right? And I don't think that's something, an addiction, something you would think you would have a little bit more empathy when it comes to that. But that's what stood out to me, Lab, that none of these people were that forceful and rebuking him. It's the people that don't like him in the comments, social media, whatever. They were all like, "Nah, it's a cat full of shit," and just that and the other. But the people he went at, I noticed they didn't really say, they weren't that boy. They weren't that strong with their rebuttal. I'll put it like that.
Right. And to piggyback off what you said, we saw, you saw the clip, you sent it to us in the group prior to all this about Monique on Steve Harvey, and he like, "Hey, I got more to lose," and I couldn't do that. I think that's part of the reason why they didn't respond accordingly. They do have more irons in the fire than he does. That's not to be disputed. He said he wasn't interested in that, and you take him at his word for it. You also have to realize that, yeah, the brother's on tour right now. He's on another tour. There is an element of getting attention to kind of, I'm not going to say sell tickets, but to get your name out there because you are on tour. I mean, that's facts. Some of it also, I do believe the reason they didn't respond is because, yeah, if it's true, yeah, you're not gonna respond. I mean, Sid can't dispute the fact of the joke still in part. If you got it on tape from '98 and him telling the same joke, and then there's other joke from Designing Women or something from like the '80s, and
super blatant. That was super blatant.
Yeah, that is, you know what I mean. And so, what can you say at that point? And so, I did listen to Ricky Smiley's response on his show, and I will say this: where Katt talked about Ricky talking about, "Man, you didn't talking about you filmed all these scenes and then they had to go back." I think he just misunderstood what Ricky Smiley said. Ricky Smiley never said he filmed the scenes as as Money Mike. He just said he had filmed his scenes and he had to come back and film some more. And I think Katt kind of misconstrued what he said. But I will say also that the reason it's polarizing is because there's another reason. There's certain things that he said that are undoubtedly it was not factual, certain things. And so for a lot of people, once you start embellishing a little too much or going a little too far, then it makes me question everything else you said. And I can't knock somebody for having that belief that if you're going to lie about this, he said it himself. I can't tell you why liars lie. Why he's sitting up there telling half and probably 100% untruths on certain items.
Untruth?
3,000 books.
Yeah, I mean that, and then also again, like I said, the Ricky Smiley, he just misunderstood, he misquoted, and so when you do that to me, there's a level of venom that clouds your judgment when you do stuff like that. If you go back and watch the Shay Shay with Ricky Smiley, it was very clear and concise what he said. He never said that, but the thing I'm really gonna say, and I don't know how this is how this is gonna be taken, but to me, it almost, he was so outspoken on that, but I found, I don't know if it affected his credibility necessarily, but when it came to his background, he was it was still some questions. He wasn't as forthcoming on those about his relationships, personal, and maybe he just wants to keep certain stuff personal, and that's understood.
Are you talking about with his father and his brothers, or
Just his upbringing in general, timelines and stuff like that? If you listen to the whole thing, there was some stuff that I'm not gonna say was contradictory, but there were some things that it was some gaps and stuff. And Shannon tried to ask him about it. He deflected and went to other things, and so Shannon moved on. But
I think it was clear that it was obvious that there was some trauma. And that's why there's really no reason why somebody leaves the house and you say it was either me or him.
Right.
I told him I was a virgin and you're dealing with the church. And I think that probably plays into why he responded the way that he did. He's 5'9". I think he's 5'9". He's still I'm 6'3", so
no, hold on, man. We saw him. I'm 5'9", man. He's shorter than me, man.
Well, okay.
I'm just
or something.
So he's a small man. He's a small, right? And I feel as if when you have, we call them ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. Shout out to Dr. Torrey. When you have that type of background, you feel like your back is against the wall. Yeah. And you are going to come out swinging in that way because people who have been victimized, who've been traumatized, and I'm not trying to psychoanalyze Katt Williams, but to me, it was clear that there was something, that's why he didn't really want to talk about it. You do lash out in that way. You do. To me, people got caught up on his 40 time and reading 3,000 books. You know what I mean? Like, who's to say? I would say the 40 time I was kind of like, okay, dog. The 3,000 books, there's a possibility.
Yeah.
3,000 nonfiction books.
There's a possibility.
Yeah.
There is.
And I was gonna say too,
nobody has ever said, people who actually know Katt Williams, who know him, you've never heard anybody say that he's an unintelligent man. Actually, every single person they talk about his generosity, number one. And then number two, they talk about how intelligent the man is. Now, they may talk about like his personality quirks or some of those things, but nobody ever said he was a unintelligent person. Right. So I think that a lot of times we are putting our limitations on that, and it may or may not be true. But the pushback I give you, Lab, is that, somebody will say, well, if you lie about that, you lie about anything else. Okay. But
he said it.
It did, and some people had that train of thought, and I'm not here to argue against that, but the things that he said, the people who said it about, they didn't come out, hey, somebody called one of y'all and said something incorrect about y'all, you're going to be like, hey, man, that's a lie. that didn't happen. And you're gonna refute it just like Katt did. Katt said, that ain't what happened. This is what happened. And he talked about how egregious those people work. So I think it's just some people's sensibilities when it comes to a message. And that's why some people were just like, nah, I can't fool with Katt Williams. You want to be caught up so much on his embellishments and not what he's saying. But I will say that the reason why it resonated with more people than people who were against or who were like, nah, I'm not really fooling with his message, because Katt spoke out against the gatekeepers.
Yeah. That was
The
something.
gatekeepers in the industry. So one thing he could have talked about more is when he talked about Kevin Hart. He said, well, do y'all not know a definition of a plant?
Right. Mhm.
And that to me shows how high he is intellectually, because he could have delved into that a whole lot more. He said it, and for most people, they just kind of scooted past that, and they focused on Ricky and Sed and Steve. But when he talked about that and the different things that happen in Hollywood, Hollyweird, he could have delved a whole lot deeper into that. And I'll say one more thing before I let y'all in. A lot of people said, well, it's mighty coincidental that he has a tour right now. Listen, y'all, I'm a Katt Williams fan. This is his 19th tour. And I've been to his comedy shows. And guess what? They are packed. They are packed out every time. So it's like I tell y'all, bring up again, but we're not going there. We talked about Monique. I said, listen, it may not be your thing, but they have a following, and they don't need. Listen, we from Missouri, right? We from that area. Who's the highest ranking touring artist out? Rap.
Tech Nine?
Tech Nine. And you don't see Tech Nine on mainstream radio. You don't see him. He don't have the publicity of all these other artists. He doesn't have major industry labels pushing him. But guess what? He's one of the highest paid rappers, and he always sells out shows because he has a groundswell of people who are behind him. And I think that's the same thing with Katt. So that him doing this for, to promote his tour, yeah, it might be a byproduct. He'll get some extra tickets. Maybe he'll be able to raise some of the prices because of the demand, but he's going to sell out anyway, though.
Well, I think that's unfair too, because when you have a tour, that's when people try to interview you. That's when you do these press things.
He's
That's
never
when
done it
people,
before, though.
right, but
Sold out.
right. And so I'm not saying that he needed it, but I'm saying if somebody reaches out to you, I think his point from the beginning was, Shannon, you let all those other people come on here and say whatever they wanted to say. So now I'm going to come on here and set the record straight. So I don't think he ever felt a need to do those interviews, but he did feel a need to set the record straight. Like you said, most of us would. If somebody says something that was untrue about me, I'm going to say, no, that's a flat out lie. I'm probably going to say it privately because it's probably going to go left, but I would definitely address it.
Yeah, and again, some of the stuff is there's I always say there's three sides to every story. His side, and then the truth is usually somewhere in between. And so I think the problem with the whole thing is that people are holding him to be some arbiter of truth, like everything that he says is concrete and solid 100%. And that's all I'm saying is it's not. It's not. I mean, it's not in human nature, because your perspective on things is different from someone else's perspective. And so people respond to certain situations based on their perspective at the time. You can probably look back at something 25 years ago and say, yeah, see, that's what was really going on. But in the heat of the moment, that might not even cross your mind, and you have different perspectives at that time. So
there's truth. There's a lot of truth to what you're saying. I would say that social media jumped on this. And when he was talking about such and such did this and such did that, folks were finding the clips, verifying what he was saying.
Yeah,
and they was like, "Yo, he ain't told a lie yet," So I get what you're saying is true. Nobody's telling 100% the truth. People, because our perspectives are different.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Just like you said. But I feel as if there was a lot of hate directed towards his way, And my personal belief is because he's targeting the industry darlings, the folks who are the safe ones.
But like you said, though, I've never been like, oh, let me go see Steve Harvey, or oh, let me go see Cedric the Entertainer. I mean, that in and of itself, it does kind of make you question, like, how did they get here? When I don't know. There's not people that are clamoring for Steve Harvey. You know, I mean, seriously, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then I'm like a diehard comedy fan. I can't do live music, but you give me a comedy show, I'm there. I'm at the Helium or I'm at somewhere. I just flew to Vegas to go see Bill Burr. So, but I went to the Kings of Comedy, but I mean, there's no world where I'm like, let me go see Steve. You'll be fine. Let me go see Steve or said. And I think that when
Listen, we're
people
starting the year off bad. You can find to see Bill Burr, the blackest radio show on the internet. Like, come on.
listen, Bill Burr's in my top. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Marika Moore, and if you want to get all up in my business, you should check out my new book, Unsolicited Marriage Advice, where I provide an analysis of the best marriage advice that I've received over the past 16 years or so. So head on over to Amazon and buy it now.
He's funny. But I liked Ice Cube's response too.
Yeah.
He was like, hey man, as much as I want to stay out of this, let me give my political response because Katt has always had my back. There was a lot of truth that he said. There was some things that wasn't necessarily true. And I think to your point about Ricky Smiley is that he was saying that he let Ricky Smiley audition. They just didn't give him the role. So he wasn't saying, like you said, maybe he never said he shot it. He just tried for it. And that was maybe just some confusion there. But he was just like,
and it's clear that there was a personal thing there.
Yeah.
You know, with Steve and with said, it was more so, this is what y'all have done.
And I think part of that was
Ricky, because he kept saying Ricky's behavior was so egregious.
He said back then too.
He kept doing this, he kept doing that, and it's kind of like, you still running your mouth, and so that's why he came out. But I appreciate. Now I'm gonna throw a dart at y'all. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna be new.
do it.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, come on, shoot.
I've always criticized y'all when we have our disagreements, and I've always said that the difference between me and y'all is that when y'all make a good point and I've been wrong, I will say I'm wrong. Y'all don't.
I'm never wrong, but continue.
There you go. Prove my point.
I mean, I'm not.
Why I felt confident in saying that Katt was telling the truth about these things. There's clearly cats that he didn't like. When he talked about Earthquake, he said, how come Earthquake couldn't get on TV? They found out he was illiterate. He couldn't read the cue card. He's talked about Faison Love being a fat Faison lie. But when Shannon talked about, he said Faison had a good show. And Katt said he had an excellent show. He's excellent. And he said Earthquake. He said Earthquake is excellent. He talked about how before in the 2.5 hours, he said all comedians are being booed, right? He said Earthquake has probably never been booed. It is excellent. So when you have somebody who can still give props regardless of their personal feelings, I do feel as if there's an extra level of candor and truth telling that can be assigned to that person, because they can say, hey, listen, I don't F with them, but they good. So that's why I fool with Katt like that.
Why'd you preface that with we don't never change our story, like there's not a level of candor to
right.
You know.
But see, also it also, when it comes to the whole joke stealing thing, it almost it made me think about the integrity of that person who stole the jokes, and almost like for years though, comedians have had ghostwriters, right? So a lot of comedians don't write their own material and so forth like that. So you hear rappers say it all the time, like, man, I had that line for. He stole my line. It just, man, it's just something that I never really thought about in comedy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I never really thought about somebody stealing somebody else's jokes.
Well, I knew that comedians have writers, like, you know, Eddie Murphy, I think it's Raw or Delirious. They put in the credits.
Yeah, right.
Paul Mooney, Robert Townsend, you know, they bounce jokes off each other, they help each other. You know, and then there's outright theft.
Yeah, that's what I never even thought about it that way. Like I never, I mean, so obviously it happens. I mean, yeah.
When you looked at the joke that Katt said stole, me, that was a clear theft.
Yeah,
He freaked it a little bit.
Yeah.
But the way he was positioning his body,
exact
set
same.
the joke up, it's like, bro, you stole the joke. Now, Corey Holcomb came out and he said, hey, listen, I want Katt to win. He said, but Katt stole JB Smooth's joke. And they put out a JB Smooth joke where he was talking about, you know, the DJ was playing music and he said, oh man, you could be a white dude and you can come out to this music, right? And he said, oh, you could be Superman and you can, you know, he was doing like the physical comedy. And then they showed Katt on his first special, he was coming out to that Rick Ross and he was like, oh man, like, you know, man, you could be cooking fries at Burger King, you know, you could be doing this. And I could see how somebody could say, well, that's his joke. But I also, like you said, Lab, there's only so many words and iterations in the English language. And to me, it wasn't the same joke. So if I'm going to be fair, then I could see how somebody would say, well, I don't think the joke that Said did was the same as the one Katt did. I don't agree because like the way he did his body and everything else, but I can see how perception may play a part in this, especially based on if you like somebody or you don't.
Yeah. And then when they showed Bernie I had never seen that clip of him backstage at Kings of Comedy talking about he don't bring out, he was half joking, I thought, but he might have been, I mean, he was probably a little serious too, talking about I don't bring out new material around certain people, around these dudes because they'll steal my jokes and stuff, you know.
Bro, I know that's a real thing for comedians because you know, a dude that I pledged with that was in comedy for a little bit. And I remember him saying, like, I was like, yo, bro, you got your videos of your stuff, man. Send it to another dude that we know, man. Maybe he could put you on. He was like, no, I'm not doing that. And I was like, why not? He said, man, dude, mess around. That'll be his material then. He more well-known than me. So that'll be, it's sort of just like Puff. You know what I mean? How Puff would be like, or like the Ghost production. It's like, yeah, you produce it, but don't nobody know you. So you know, so I'm gonna go ahead and take it and put it under my name. Who they gonna believe? So it's a real thing, especially because Steve Harvey was stealing Mark Curry's jokes.
Yeah.
You know,
Mark
but the
Curry
thing that stood out to me,
supported that real fast.
right? Yeah, but I mean, they had videos to prove it. You know, but the thing that really stood out to me was that people talked about. You never really hear people talking about Steve and Said like they talk about Katt. And what really made it resonate with me was that what's the comedian's name? His name is it Dion Cole? His name is Dion Cole. He made an Instagram post way back in I think like early December, and was like, "Yo, do you have, basically like do you have a Katt Williams story?" And it was so many people talking about, man, I was on the show and the promoter, you know, screwed me over. And so Katt sent somebody and put money in my pocket. And the money he put in my pocket was way more than I was supposed to get.
Right. Yeah.
And different people talk about how, like, you know, he give him clothes off his back or whatever. I just feel as if there's, to me, the stories that you hear about Katt versus the stories you hear about the other guys. If I had to say who operates with more integrity, I would have to lean towards Katt.
And that's a hell of a legacy to have other people be able to talk about how you've impacted the world. And we haven't even talked about him adopting all those babies.
I was just about to say, I didn't know about that either.
I knew about this because I'm a fan and he talked about it in his show. You know, the dude's actually, he talks about, hey, listen, I go to different cities and, you know, we got the story.
Does pull up.
He does
pull up. Yeah.
He does pull up. Lav and I were at an event. And the funniest thing was, you know, our frat brother Arnell Monroe, Spanky, rest in peace. I love you, bro. you know, he was sitting there talking and he said, man, shit, look at this Katt Williams looking motherfucker right here. And then we look like, that is Katt. You know, Katt was with the people for real.
Yeah.
Somebody saw him at the gas station, was like, hey, come through. And he came through.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's real, man. But you know who really lost out on this? Jonathan Majors.
Hey, he came for Jonathan Majors too, though.
Dude. He came for Jonathan Majors, but you know what? He wasn't that wrong, though. When you think about it, he was just like, God. They kept trying to tell him, he said, man, they tried to talk about this motherfucker's handsome. He said, that's my daddy. He said, when they ever told us big nose and big lips was handsome? I was like, you know what? He's right.
Not wrong.
They never tell us that. We say that about ourselves, but they never try to push that narrative.
Right.
He's right. But the reason why I say he lost because, you know, Jonathan Majors came out on the morning talk show. He gonna tell his story. And honestly, it ain't pop like it's supposed to pop because people really still making jokes about the Katt Williams interview.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Did y'all see the clips?
I saw the clips, man.
I didn't watch the interview. I saw the clips.
I couldn't get past the whole, what is his hang up with Coretta?
No, exactly.
Like, I was just like, you wanted the white girl to be Coretta Scott King. Now Megan Good is Coretta Scott King. Like, man, that's why when their children came out and was like, my mom is not a prop, sir. My mom was a force in her own right.
Well,
for real.
So Bernice King came out. I don't know about Martin or Dexter, but Bernice came out and she said it. You know, my mom's not a prop. And I tell people all the time, there's an autobiography written about Coretta Scott King. And if you read that biography, it gives you a lot of insight into Dr. King's life, but it also talks about her. And she was a force.
Yeah.
She was a force, and she helped him carry out his mission. But not only that, once he was assassinated, she made sure that his mission, his dream, his narrative wasn't co-opted. And because you see what happened as soon as she went away, then you know white folks started saying, well, like that's not Dr. King's dream and this, that, and the other. You need somebody to be able to tell your story.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking about that today. I was like, you know, who that you know could really tell your story and would tell it like it's the truth.
Mm.
I think that my kids could definitely tell my story. That's why I've been so candid with them.
Yeah.
That's why I think that Bernice was right there front and center, like, hey man, keep my mom's name out your mouth, fam.
Right.
Especially you saying it to this white girl, and you know, like, number one, you should, of course he didn't know. Why she taping this conversation?
Because the same reason that girl was taping, who was that? The Lakers coach or whatever.
Lakers coach.
The one who was talking about just don't take pictures with him. You could be like hanging out with him. Just don't be taking pictures with him on Instagram.
Oh, you talking about the Clippers owner.
Oh yeah. Either way, it's like they're recording these conversations because they're going to be fruitful eventually. Like these women are not moving without a purpose.
But the whole piece was, though, when we talked about him getting fired, and he said, I didn't think I did anything wrong. You could see, like, I was shocked that I was convicted. And then when they tried to say, you don't think you hurt her, and the whole being evasive thing came back, and he was like, I was wrong for still being with her. I should have left her a long time ago. Like, nah, you did put
your broke her finger.
You did put your hands on her, you know. Right. You did snatch. No. I'm not saying
don't go there.
I don't endorse abuse at all. I don't believe in endorsing women being abused. I don't believe in women abusing men. But if you snatch my property and I take it back from you and you happen to get hurt in the process, whose fault really is that?
The casualty of war.
Yeah.
And
Unfortunately.
you snatch my stuff and I snatch it back and you get hurt, you shouldn't have snatched my stuff.
Yeah, but she's right.
Right.
So It's like he said, it's not that I don't think that white women are attractive, that I don't want them kind of problems.
He got Megan Good. Megan Good was looking. I don't know if she's getting paid to play the role, but did you see her? He was talking about her. She was all.
She was, I know. She was crying too. She was tears coming down
She
her
was
face.
playing that role,
He
man.
called her Coretta, and she was just like,
Listen, they just approved season 2 of her show, so
I didn't know she had a show.
Harlem?
Harlem. Yeah, I haven't watched it, but yeah.
It's so good.
It's on Amazon, right?
I don't know. I have all of the things. They have all of my money.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just, and then like to me, this voice of contrition that he had, I didn't think that, I didn't whatever. And you're trying to soften your voice. And unfortunately, black men, we've had to do that in corporate America. I mean, maybe not at all, but I've had a white voice before. I remember one time my boy called me and I thought I put him on hold. And I said, hold on. I said, hold on a second, dog. And then I thought I had him on hold, and I was finishing my call with my corporate, aka white man voice on. And hey man, he laughed at me so hard. He was like, "Dog, are you serious?" I'm like, "Man, come on, man. Listen, I'm a product of the 80s and 90s. That's
Mm-hmm.
I try not to do that no more though.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I still think that there is a professional tone that you have and still sound like a black man, but there's a way that y'all know what I mean by
Oh yeah, for sure.
White folks' voice in court. You do that when you're in court, Arika?
I do, but I don't. So I think that for me, I have a concern about what's going to come out of my mouth. So I have to turn on professional Arika, and I don't necessarily know how she sounds. I just know that she talks differently because I really want to be like, who are you talking to? And then so it's like I have to turn that person all the way off and turn on the other person who's like, I'm sorry, could you repeat yourself in a way that still conveys that you better not repeat yourself? So I have like a whole nother person that I have, like that person suit that I put on when I go be a lawyer. So I don't know. I don't know if she sounds different or not.
The thing about it is this. I'm in an industry where there are times where you have to be on. Like there's 24 hours in a day, you got to be on for 16, so you got to constantly be in that mode. You have to wear that mask. And we all wear that mask sometimes, right? And if you haven't all the way capitulated and I'm not gonna say sold out because that's strong, but if you haven't all the way just assimilated in that way, wearing that mask is exhausting.
Heavy.
It's exhausting. So like you said, you definitely have to change your personality from professional to how I'm talking to y'all. Because even how I'm talking to y'all on this show is different than how we talk once we start recording the show, right? There's levels to it. But that work personality that you have to put on, man. And that's why I admire the entrepreneurs. That's why I admire the people that don't give a damn. Like the Dame Dashes, like you probably won't flourish, because the reality of it is it's a white man's world and they got it to have and we got it to get. So in order for you to flourish, you have to make them feel safe. And that's what I feel like Jonathan Majors was doing when he was, well, in my mind, I'm a great man. And I want the woman that's with me to be my Coretta. Like, dude, like, just talk regular, dog. Talk regular. But had he talked with that tone, they'd have been like, this Negro ain't changed. They did the same thing. They did the same thing. They did the same thing when Ja Morant came back from his suspension. Shout out to Ja, man. I'm sorry that you had the season-ending injury. But when Ja came back, and basically Ja was like, I ain't really sorry, but I'm just doing this because y'all told me to. People saw right through it.
Yeah.
It was like, he ain't learned a thing. Basically, you ain't bowed down yet.
Yeah.
But also, we see you in movies. We know what your voice sounds like. You can't be this big, powerful villain in these movies and then come in here and be this meek little person. Like, oh, that's just the role I'm playing. Stop it. Find a middle ground. Like, I'm not saying go all the way to the booming villain voice, but come on, find a middle ground. I don't.
He's never been like booming like villain, but he definitely wasn't putting on like he was in that damn interview.
Right, right.
Definitely.
I mean, he's an actor, so I mean, he clearly is playing a role to get back in the good graces, and we'll see how it works out for him.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope he comes back. I don't know, y'all, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's tough because you wasn't with Megan. You was with the old Faye when this happened. But I think Marvel did him dirty though. I do. I think this is a misdemeanor, right? Clearly he wasn't Ike Turner on this girl. They had a toxic relationship and this happened, right? And I feel as if the penalty is disproportionate, in my personal opinion. I don't feel like his livelihood has been impacted because of a misdemeanor. I don't agree with that. So I don't know if they recast Kane, I might not see it. I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted. I'm not there, or I'm not sure.
I think it's the nature of the crime. Anything that has to do with women these days has gotten so much blowback. The Me Too, domestic violence. It's like companies are just taking a hard stance. And so even though it's a misdemeanor, it's like most people who have never been to court and stuff like that, they're not thinking about that. They like, he broke her finger. And you guys are letting him in the movie. Like, people are stupid. 95% of the population is like so like indoctrinated with these principles and ideas that have been fed to them in social media and in just in their upbringing and stuff, that they don't really have original thoughts and they don't really think outside the box on issues. So it's not like they're sitting there saying, oh well, this is a misdemeanor, he's never been in trouble before, this is a minor offense. They're saying he broke her finger. There's like no middle ground where the majority of people are really processing through what actually happened. They're not doing that. They're being fed what happened from social media and they're just taking that general story and running with it. They're not doing the research. They're not looking into it. They're not looking at some of these charges were dropped. Most people are just not doing that. And so if Marvel wants to keep people, publicly happy, that's what they do.
They do.
Yeah.
Katt Williams said, "Make it good. Got half them charges dropped. She saved that slave."
He did say that though.
That dude is hilarious, man.
Yeah.
That dude sat there and talked off the cuff for 2.5 hours and was hilarious. Hilarious. And then you saw where they was like, damn, Luda, this man that talked about your wife and you came out with a whack rhyme in response. Like, that was kind of whack. Luda, like, come on, Luda. That was a whack
Yeah,
response.
but I mean, Luda has always been Luda. He should have just shut up.
Yeah, he didn't have to respond.
He shouldn't have responded.
Yeah.
He obviously felt touched by the weird face, light skinned wife, but
His wife not weird face though. But
And he felt about the sideburn. That's what he was.
This is the second one.
About.
They said that I think they said that his first wife was light skinned and weird face.
Luda?
I didn't know he had a first wife. The one they put in the little weird face light skinned girl matrix was Eudoxie, and she from Africa. And he done went all the way over there and found him a goddamn light skinned girl.
Man. Nah, I think she's beautiful. I think she's a pretty girl.
I don't think any of them are ugly.
Right.
I think
that that speaks to a different. That's a whole nother topic.
I don't believe in using the term ugly, but there was some of them that were funny looking,
Right, but I think funny looking and ugly are two different categories.
Right.
And ugly is like
I think
how
there's something to get the Tisha Campbell pass. Yeah, never heard
right. No, that's what I'm saying. That's a whole nother discussion.
You don't know what the Tisha Campbell pass is? Remember how back in the day on Martin, and they had Tisha Campbell, you had the Tina Arnold, you had Gina and Pam, and everybody was like, Gina's fine.
Yeah.
No, she wasn't.
She was light skinned.
Yeah,
Pam was fine.
right.
Pam,
same
and
thing
they
with
made
House
Pam.
Party.
They made
Yeah,
Pam the butt
exactly.
of
Just
all
like
the
in
Luke
House
shows.
Party, just like in House Party. It's talking about
Yeah.
Sydney and
Yeah.
man.
You
Yeah,
know,
the other chick was better than her.
That's right.
AJ Johnson, yeah, but so a lot of them wives, they got the what's the name? I can't remember her name now. Y'all got me talking about it.
Eudoxie,
Nah, what's Gina's name?
Tisha Campbell.
Tisha Campbell.
They got the Tisha Campbell patch.
Yeah. Mhm.
Which, well, and then her husband was probably one of them people he was talking about at them Hollywood parties.
Yeah, but listen, on that note,
Oh,
we're gonna leave that alone.
no.
Hey, Katt, you a man of the people. We know you are. I'm riding hard for you, bro. Come on the Man Listen show, man. We need some of those views too, man. We done got the 402 followers. Let's go ahead and get the Club Shay Shay numbers for the Man Listen show. We done it once before. We talked about Chris Rock. I know we can do it with Katt. So somebody send us the Katt Williams people and say we want him to come on to the Man Listen show. You know what I mean? But until then, tell your friend to follow the Blackest Radio Show on the internet. Go to our Facebook, Instagram, and X at Man Listen Show. Subscribe to the show on YouTube. I got it right that time. Click the bell icon and let you know about this show. And we'll have you next time. Peace.
Peace, we miss you, see.
Yeah.
The fat face on live.